Testing, 1, 2. Welcome everybody to the White Noise Podcast. Hello, Mr. Robot.
Hey Carter, good to be back and good to see you again.
Well, welcome back. I've got me, yourself, Rick and Morty behind me here. I have to hang them both up this weekend.
Testing 1, 2. Welcome everybody.
Oh, there we go. And tonight we're doing a fun episode. We're going to do a follow-up on the COVID app, the FMB tracking, the cybersecurity bill, and international travel, and all the madness around having an app to travel. And we might even go a bit into the COVID vaccines if we are so inclined. So what do you have for us there, Mr. Robot?
Okay, cool. So I think, I'm quite chuffed that I was your first guest on your podcast. So that was lekker. And I see your channel's grown quite nicely since then. So congrats.
Yeah. We've made some movement. I think it's about 8 episodes in. We've got 1,500 times listened to, and I've got a steady audience of about 60 odd people that listens to every episode that gets released. So, and then the YouTube channel's also on 95 subscribers. One video, the first COVID video, has 500 views, and the rest are averaging out at about 60 to 90 views each. So it's not too bad, I think, for 2 months worth of work at all. So yeah. But anyway, enough bragging and shit from my side. You are residents, cryptocurrency and software expert / developer, and you then went through the effort of actually installing the COVID app and tracking and seeing what information it gathers. And we did episode 1 on that, and now more on what information it's gathering and everything like that. Now this is the episode where you've kind of installed it and you've seen what information it's been tracking and everything, and this is our post-mortem. So anything that you've gathered since then, and we also had the incident where FMB was tracking people for a bit, and then they used to say, no, it's for geolocation purposes. So we're making sure that you're not in Thailand and Hong Kong and South Africa at the same time while transacting. So yeah, you've dug into these things a bit more. So what have you found?
Okay, so just to show that I've still got the app on my phone tracking me.
And have you received anything from it?
No.
Or is the app just as useless as our government?
Okay, it was actually quite boring. I did not receive any alerts to any potential exposures, so that was quite disappointing. I was hoping for some action. I did have it on my phone since after the last session we did, and every time I went out into public, I switched it on and had it running. So also I had a network sniffing app on the phone to check the network traffic going out from the app, and the app itself, and this is what some other developers said, the app itself doesn't actually do anything exciting. It's just the layer that sits on top of the Google and the Apple, that exposure notifications framework. If you remember from last time, the part that's built into the operating system. So that part we didn't analyze. So that's actually a separate conversation that we need to maybe look at that and analyze that thing. So I did not see any dodgy data going out. The Bluetooth, you can't actually analyze the Bluetooth packets or data that's sent going out unless you modify the app and then install it on your phone. But I use the standard stock version from the Play Store on this phone. So since our last talk, they've also released a new version of it with some updates. We tested the version 1.2 something, and this is now the 1.4, version 1.4, which I've got running. And what they added to it is some bug fixes and some enhancements. Oh, and there's also a forgot pin feature that was added.
Question then, did they fix any of the bugs that we identified from the initial build? And then what are these enhancements you speak of? Cover those 2 points for me quick.
Okay, the bugs, it looks like the bugs that I found, that it ships with a module called classes dot classes.bex. I must actually just look at it. Okay, so there's like a library, classes.bex. It's a library of functionality that ships with the app, and not everything in that thing is implemented in the app, but it's the for the developers to use. So the vulnerabilities are still there, but they're not all not all used in the app or implemented, if that makes sense. So I think we were correct in identifying them, but as some other people pointed out, then they're not all being used. But then my question is, why ship an app with all that bloated information if you're not going to use it? It's sitting there. So it's almost like an app framework by the looks of it, that those are your standard features, and then it just gets included into the build.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the new features, I didn't see any. I'm not sure which bugs were fixed. I didn't really tear apart the new version like we did thoroughly the last time. But the forgot pin journey is just obviously. I'm not sure what pin they're referring to there, but it's if you lock yourself out of the app, then you can reset it somehow.
But is one of the reasons you didn't see a lot of action probably the amount of people actually installing the app are quite few and far in between? I don't think anyone is rushing to install it. There's really no incentive at this stage of the fight. If you have high, like room temperature IQ, you might. But if you're not a fucking idiot, there's really no incentive to do this. But I mean, in the name of science, you did it. So is it possible that you were at places where people don't give a shit, and that's why you didn't see a lot of action? Or what is your gut feeling on this?
Okay, very good question.
Because I think if it has to be effective, I've read a few articles. I'm not sure on this, and you can fact check me here. You have to have about 60% of your entire population that have to have this installed. And I think how many people have installed the app right about now? What does the App Store say?
So when our dear president, he's going to talk to our nation later.
What was the ENCA caption? Our president speaking to our South African family. I'm like, fuck, if it's a family, like he's the abusive stepfather. The ANC is the abusive family that you really don't want ever to visit. Like some people say in that family group, like you leave that family group immediately because it's that toxic part of the family that always makes it cuck. It's the drunkle. And you do get good drunkles, by the way, but it's the terrible drunkle that gets drunk and he's just swearing at everyone, making terrible bad racist jokes the whole time, even against white people like Pierre de Vos et al. So that's the kind of level of abuse the ANC family does, if I have to put it into perspective. So absolutely. Sorry, I just derailed there and went on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, you're spot on. I always call Cyril stepdad on Twitter because he is like a stepdad. He's distant and cold, and then when he makes his appearance, he just shouts at you and tells you what to do. So
yes, I always say harder daddy when someone's abusive. So I said today I captioned it. I'm like Cyril the stepdad, harder daddy. So that's kind of my party trick. But anyway, we digress. Sorry for that.
So to add to your point, so that when he spoke last time, I think it was the 11th of November, what he quoted was 700,000 downloads of the COVID-19 SA Alert app. So I haven't checked the stats since then. The Android App Store does show the amount of downloads, so we can verify that, but the iOS Store doesn't publicly show the downloads. So, I mean, he's more or less in the range. I'm just checking now on the Android Store. It says 500 plus installs. So we can assume it's still about in that range. I don't think there would have been many more. Oh, there might have been more install instances.
Let's put it into perspective, Louis. It's interesting because remember, you had all these, you had Discovery, you had all these sports stars like promoting the shit out of the app. The Department of Health is still tweeting about it, like they're going mad. So obviously there was a lot of budget for this. and some golden handshakes happening at the back end. So we're still not sure. We're assuming it's the team at Discovery that developed it. That's the kind of only conclusion we can make, because government doesn't actively hire any developers. And we know that government has a actually uncomfortably cozy relationship with Discovery, which I'm moving my medical aid and my credit card from, by the way, just on principle, because they pro NHI and everything. So I just on principle, I'm moving away by just sheer, they're too cozy with the government, and I'm not comfortable with that. So yeah. So have you heard any more stories about where and how this was developed? How much budget was thrown to this? We know it's built on an existing framework, so there couldn't have been massive development costs, most probably, because it's kind of like a white labeled app. But any news from that?
Yeah, so it's definitely confirmed that Discovery did develop the app for the National Department of Health, and then the Department of Health white labeled it as their solution. But in the documentation of the app, in the privacy policy, it does actually state that Discovery developed it on behalf of the government. And as you say, Discovery is very cozy with government because I think they want to administer the NHR for the government when it launches. So they have to butter their bread on both sides. But just to come back to your stat earlier, you were right. From what I've read, the international benchmark is 60% compliance. So this app can only be effective if we have that many, that much compliance. But the problem is, and this is the crux of the thing, is that South Africa only has about 20 to 22 million, about a third of our population that owns smartphones in the first place. So contact tracing using an app, a smartphone app, isn't really good for South Africa. It's maybe a first world solution. But
is it safe to assume that they completely fucking jumped the gun on this one?
Absolutely.
Like, statistically, this thing this shouldn't work. Like right off the bat, if you know how many people have smartphones, this shouldn't work right off the bat. Like, why go through the trouble of developing the app to its completion, then paying fucking Discovery and lots of sport stars to promote it on Twitter? Like, so idiotic.
Yeah, true. I'll show you later. There's actually a professor that is of Wits University that's also said that this contact tracing is a flop. But the Discovery celebrities, I think they sign on as their brand ambassadors for a certain point of time. So they have to promote whatever Discovery tells them to do. So they don't really have a say in this app promotion. So yeah, but they've been punting it really hard. And I see our Minister of Health is also, he tweets this COVID stats every day, and then he promotes the app. So, and then there's also the emotional plea of installing it, that angle to say that do your part, save lives, install this app and do the right thing. So it's a very strange way of pushing and promoting something that
statistically cannot work. Like it cannot.
Yes. If you look at the science and at the stats and at logic, then it cannot work.
But Louis, we've been following science the whole time throughout this scamdemic. What are you talking about?
Yeah, science.
Not all science is equal,
no,
eh?
Definitely not.
So go on.
I'd love to see what he says tonight about the app, and if it's still a central part in the marketing and messaging. I think the hype has died down a lot now, and people aren't really so much more susceptible for stuff like this. So it's a hard sell to get people to install it now. And also, if you want to have some fun, read the reviews on the App Store about the app. So they're either really biased for praising it, how amazing it is and brilliant, and then you get the few reviews that are terrible. They just really slate.
People just shooting it down.
Absolutely, flaming it. Just
I love it.
Bomb.
I'm probably in there. Like, I'm like, wow, if it's so wonderful, why can't it make me sandwiches and bring me beers? That's my question. It's an important one.
I'd like an app like that for sure.
No, really. So would every man.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have to be inclusive. Every man, every non-binary and gender neutral and female. I don't know. There's too many. I can't get to them all. Sorry for all the other 99 genders that I excluded in that.
You see, your wife's listening, so you're going to get in trouble anyway.
Anyway, moving right along.
Anyway.
I can see, like, she's one of the early adopters tonight. Shout out to Dione Harley. Gonna piss some few people off by doing that, but it's excellent. I love it. Louis, so go on. You have some things prepared that you want to share with us tonight. Please proceed with that.
Cool. So the F&B app, it might sound like an illogical jump, but bear with me. So why are we going to talk about the F&B app and location tracking, and I'll bring it back to this app in a bit, because you'll see why it makes sense in the greater scheme of things. So your other guest, I think you had him on your show, Ivo Vachter,
yes.
He raised it on Twitter first, the location tracking. So FNB's banking app introduced location tracking for transactions. So, and then he queried it with them, and after a whole lot of runaround and different responses, we eventually got a response. I actually got my own response from them as well, so I can show it to you on Twitter. From RB Jacobs, their what do you call it? Service consultant bot.
I just wanted to say, yeah.
Everyone loves old RB Jacobs. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is now live on Twitter. So I asked them what's up with this story, and they said the use of location for security is increasingly being employed by many organizations around the world as a valuable tool to protect customers. While we understand your trepidation, we take great care to safeguard your data. And then part two, the bank uses the data within a security framework and does not share this data. Ooh, okay, so that obviously they would say that. Do they share it? We'll see. Our primary concern is ensuring that you have a safe banking experience. Location is simply one additional layer of security that we have added to our award-winning channels, RB.
Quick rapid fire question. What rhymes with banking? I think that's exactly what they did with that answer. It's a whole lot of waffle. Now, obviously, what's your opinion on that, Louis?
Well, I have to say I wasn't totally convinced, so I decided to look at the legislation, because being a skeptic, I have to always verify stuff instead of trusting people. And I think a lot of people just assume that because an institution says something, it must be true. So, and I think you think the same as
I'm a cynical bastard by nature, so I'm 100% with you on that.
Right. So I had a look at the POPI Act, or the POPIA. POPIA. That just sounds weird. POPI Act sounds a bit better.
POPI sound better. Yeah, it sounds like a broad you can pick up at a bar, but POPIA sounds like an Oprah singing lady.
Yes.
So
in the POPIA Act, in the section, I think it's section 18, it clearly defines what personal information is and what should be protected. And one of the things is location information. So a service provider like FNB or a cell phone provider, they call them WASPs, you are not allowed to share location data with third parties, except, guess what? Wait. I'm jumping the gun here. Let's look at the document. So this is the First Rand Group Privacy Policy. And I think it's in section 8 of this document. Sorry, I had it open. Something quickly. How
dare you not have this open on demand? Don't disappoint me again. You will feel my wrath.
when, how, and with whom do we share your personal information? So it says here, down here at the bottom, you can see this. They can share personal information with regulatory authorities, industry ombudsman, government departments.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, but now, I mean, location tracking is supposed to be excluded because it's protected by the POPI Act. But I wasn't satisfied with that answer, so I thought, okay, let's look at the information regulator of South Africa. And in this document, which I'll also share with you guys, and this is public information, but people don't read legal documents because it's boring, and I don't usually either, unless it's something like this. So in this document, the information regulator guidance notice that was issued in April, 3rd of April, sharing of location-based data or data. Can electronic communication service providers, which we mentioned now as like WASPs, provide location-based data to the government to process for the purpose of tracking data subjects to manage the spread of COVID-19. They don't define what those measures are, but as long as it's for the purpose of curbing the spread, yes. The electronic communication service providers must provide the government with mobile location-based data of data subjects. The government can use such personal info in the management of the spread of COVID-19. So there's an exception. And yes, they can provide it. And they
can you just like snip that part out and the other part and then fucking talk with that bot again and get a satisfactory answer? Because he's like, no, we won't. It's like, bitch, read here.
You do.
Here.
I do. Yes, I do. And we know this is true because in, you remember recently there was a high-profile murder of a police captain. I must just.
Yeah, I remember it was. Yeah, I remember this.
Okay, so he was quite a high-profile lieutenant, I think, in the.
Yeah, and he lost his bodyguard protection for some obscure reason. And then right after that, he was gunned down. No coincidences here.
And that's one part of it. The other part is that his cell phone, and this came out in the court proceedings, his cell phone location data was accessed by the people that took him out. So if it weren't for this legislation or this exception in this legislation, they would not have been able to get hold of it. So and it's an interesting.
Yeah, because it's people from a government department that had access to this as well, and it was leaked out.
Exactly.
Again, I'm a cynical bastard, but at least I'm a semi-clever cynical bastard. So are you.
Wow, thank you. So,
I know, I'm flattering tonight.
Very. So while I'm on the roll here, let's look at just so back to the contact tracing. So I mentioned earlier that a professor at Wits University and the Sunday Times ran with this article on the 8th of November. So Professor Shabir Mahdi, he was leading the SA's vaccine trials, and I believe actually he's actually one of the test subjects or something. Anyway, that's another story. But he said that contact tracing in South Africa has failed. Normal contact tracing needs 75% of close contacts to be traced on average. And with normal contact tracing, we have never even come close to those targets. And he says that the technology is not a golden bullet or silver bullet solution for this situation. So
Neil, listen to me, Neil. Let's be very frank about this. You basically have hundreds of thousands of fucking logbooks at shops and security centers, people writing down the information, but this doesn't come to a central database. And even if it did, there's no way to trace people's movements in and out if they've been to 6 places a day or 8. Like, you would really need some badass hardware and algorithms working on this, and a ton of people and a ton of resources, which in this case, it doesn't justify all the hoo-ha for a virus with such a high survival rate. None of this is necessary. Yeah, so it's quite incredible that, like you say, all of this is just for show. All the tracing, all the tracking, all this app, it's to save face. That's my 5 cents. Because they know they fucked up the economy with lockdown, and they're trying all these things, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
No, they're saving face, and they just copying what everyone else is doing. They don't have a plan. So I mean, let's do a lockdown like everyone else. Let's get an app because everyone else has it. I mean, that's the best way to save face. Just do what everyone else is doing, so you won't look stupid.
And my biggest concern is there's no political party openly opposing lockdown. I haven't seen anyone team up with Panda. Like, Alan Winde is the fucking weirdest guy ever. Like, he now also, like, the last 2 days, I actually called him out, and I saw a lot of people actually starting doing the same, which was like very ironic, because I showed the time I posted it, then I saw a few other people. I'm like, I tagged a few people, and then they replied it as if it was their thing, and I'll give it to them. It's fine, no harm, no foul. Just at least like my fucking tweet or reshare it, okay? Be generous, retweet it. So what I did in the last week is I called Alan Winde out, because he was like, no, we do have to also start locking down, and even if it's only some parts. And then today, he fucking doubled down. He asked, like, no, I'm going to speak to Cyril and find out if people aren't wearing masks, there should be consequences. I'm like, well, what the fuck are you saying? Like, I'm like, hello, Adolf Windler. Like,
Did you say that on Twitter?
Yeah, I actually will.
I missed that.
Yeah, I'll actually.
No.
I've been on fire on Twitter. Do you know he's actually saying like, do you even work, guy? And I'm like, sometimes I don't, but it's totally worth it sometimes. So I'll actually, I'll actually do a bit of a screen share quick.
Okay, I'll stop sharing, and then you can.
It was on this one. Share screen. Yeah, I actually tagged Jim, and I said, the Western Cape government has absolutely no idea what it's doing where this pandemic is concerned. I'm like, cartoon idea, Adolf Windler. Because Alan Winde is so fucking inconsistent, dude. Then he's in the mall with people dressed in bubbles, and then he's like, no, we need strategic lockdowns, but not complete lockdowns. Then there's a press release saying the DA saying kind of lockdowns are shit. And like later in the article, they double down again. I'm like, Jesus Christ, get a stand and stick with it. Like, you guys really, like, it's not that difficult. Either you're for it or you're not. And I've been saying for the longest time, the only thing that lockdowns are effective at is fucking up economies and livelihoods. That's all it does. It does nothing else. And obviously, yeah, there's a higher suicide rate, and actually you are actually confining the virus. So everyone that has that virus, they go back to their homes, they're now there, and everyone gets that. It actually worsens the situation, if anything else. And then the same thing with masks. The experts are saying not effective. If anything, there's a higher rate of pneumonia and other illnesses from it. But hey, science, yo, let's double down. It's fucking ludicrous. Sorry, that's my rant. We go on with your stuff.
It's absolutely the strangest year we've been living in. Did you see the lotto numbers for the lotto last night?
It's like a grade 1 counting randomly sub-10 numbers. It's like the ANC's literacy, like, summed up in lotto numbers.
Totally.
I think the highest number was a double digit. I think the bonus number was 10, but it's like 5, 6, 8, 7, 9. That's kind of the vibe of the numbers. I'm like,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10.
Yes, 10 is the bonus number.
And the best part is that 20 people got it right. That's the best part.
Probably all of them are ANC voters and EFF voters, most probably.
I'd love to know. I'd really love to know.
Anyway, continue, Louis.
Anyway, I've got one more page to show, and then we can just chat around all the stuff. So I'm going to just share this thing again. So this just ties into the formal part of our presentation.
We have something like that. Did you just use the F word?
Can you see this article? COVID passports.
Oh, Lordy, let me add it to the stream.
So,
Oh my God.
so this
That's
is
an
how,
oxymoron if I ever saw it. Like COVID password could revive. I'm like, let's have at it, Louis. Like,
yeah, so it implies that COVID destroyed international travel. False. Lockdowns and governments destroyed international travel through policy, and killing the economy. So let's just blame the virus. And then let's also then provide the solution because we are so gracious. So here we go. But this was actually reported by Bloomberg. I love this local tech blog because they always have the scoop on stuff like this. But yeah, so the global airline lobby, IATA, IATA, sounds Japanese.
Yata.
Sounds like a hard drive or something in a computer.
Yes,
IATA.
yes.
So they want to build an app called the Travel Pass, and then it's basically a global. They want. We need to have global rules and standards on measures like rapid testing and vaccination. So it'll just be a log of your status and vaccination status, and then obviously you'll need to then present that app with your status to then be able to travel internationally. So yeah, I mean there's some big airlines that are part of this lobby group. They're testing with British Airways already, and they want to have it in on devices or in the App Store next to the Android version. Sorry, first quarter of 2021, and then the Apple version. Sorry, I'm talking over myself here. The Apple version will be ready in the first quarter of next year, and then from April onwards next year, then there will be an Android version. So yeah, that's just interesting. And I thought, okay, this ties in nicely because there's clearly a progression from national health departments having an app like this, and then how other corporate companies are also in on it, like Discovery and the big banks. And then you also have your big international lobby groups that oversee, travel regulations and airline travel. So they're also lobbying for this sort of thing. So
That's incredible,
yeah. So what do we make of all this information?
Well, I would say there's definitely a move to restrict movement and force everyone to get vaccines. That would be my first kind of thing that I'm looking at here, where if you don't have a COVID vaccine, they don't want you to travel to countries anymore. I think there's definitely, for some odd reason, the globalists get a hard on for these kind of things, where for some odd reason, they want everyone to be vaccinated for fucking virus that the higher than 98% survival rate. I don't understand this. It makes no sense that you would develop a vaccine for a virus that has such a high survival rate. It's ludicrous. It's everything about this is strange. I mean, all the videos that came from China initially that was over dramatized, where they like welded doors shut and people fell like flies in the streets. That was bullshit. It's come out that these were actors, by the way. So there's so many rats that's stinking to the high heavens with this whole COVID thing. So I'm very skeptical. I think there's a definite move on the authoritarian part of people on the authoritarian leftist spectrum, trying to vaccinate the whole world, trying to control movement, limit freedom of movement, and also freedom of speech. Remember, we're not able to actually speak out about videos. James got censored when he had one of the doctors on. It was a German doctor. Every time he gets someone that's anti-COVID, he gets censored. But then again, Jim wrote the handbook on how to get censored on every fucking platform known to man, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I think he's been booted twice off YouTube and Facebook at least once. That's crazy.
Well, champion, I'd say. But is it that difficult? I mean, it's not. So I'll do a screen share with you and just show you a bit in a minute. Continue speaking, Louis. I'm just getting some stuff up here.
Okay. So just some thoughts.
Give me your take. Sorry.
Yeah. No, there's a definite move towards a centralized control, as a world government sort of thing. And interventions by central government and definite control. Because if we look at how the UN and this there's the agenda called Agenda 2030, and the World Health Organization and the IMF and the World Economic Forum, how all these organizations strive to to drive this agenda, then there's a definite sort of narrative that's developing between all these different international, what would you call them? Almost.
Well, some of them, like you get the UN, and then you get they mandated in different areas. I mean, the IMF, you get the World Bank, you get the UN, but they seem to be aligning up behind certain values, and one of them is the new normal, and everyone's saying the big reset. We should be more equal, we should be more inclusive. In South Africa, we've been hearing these words for years, and what it basically means is more socialism and less property rights and more censorship. That is what all those words mean, and more consent. Obey. That's all what that means. When someone comes to me like, we need to be more inclusive, I'm like, fuck off. Like that's not how you do it. You're not asking me, you're telling me to obey. It's that whole censor, that whole leftist BLM kind of movement where they tell, like, there's no arguing here. You will obey. And I'm like, nope. Sorry, the moment in South Africa as well, when you say transformation, again, when you say inclusion and all of that stuff, I'm like, we're heading into critical theory grounds here. This is becoming racially loaded. It's becoming anti-racist, which is actually ironically fucking the most racist movements are anti-racist. That's the irony of it all. So, and they are the people spewing like, let's be all these things. And I'm like, no, let's not be. Like, if your belief system fundamentally clashes with mine, we cannot ever really gel. Like, I can respect yours and you can respect mine, but like, we're not going to forcefully integrate. Like, that's where we are. We respect each other. We respect each other as people. We respect each other's property. And we don't break the law because we disagree. To each their own. But don't come and force people to integrate that's different fundamentally, and then also tell them they shit because of this color of their skin. That's the flaws with all these movements. They assume white man bad, everyone else good, and white man oppressor. And I've got a hell of a problem with that. But anyway, we're segueing a bit off topic now. But it seems like this is the kind of agenda of all these globalist movements. They're trying to create a utopia with a great reset. And we all know how utopias end up, right? It's always a shithole, and there's a pile of bodies, and there's absolute poverty, and there's government power overreach, just like COVID did already. You give government a fucking finger, and they took the whole arm. They told people you're not able to work. They decided arbitrarily what rights you have and what rights you don't. Who's relevant in the economy and who's not? Can you think about the cheek of that? Telling people like, hey, you're more needed than you, so fuck off, you go home. You're not able to work anymore. Can you think how that fucks with people psychologically? Like people in tourism, like they think like, Jesus, my job is trash because I can get shut down. Or restaurant owners that work their whole life and burn through their savings in this time. Like some people were going to sell their restaurants in a year from now with good books, good profits, and move elsewhere or do something else. Like all these small business owners got fucked so hard, dude. Like it's incredible. So absolutely. Here we are. Governments should never again have the ability to have this overreach and power over its citizens. We should fight this tooth and nail, especially this NCCCCCCC thing we have at this stage that's making arbitrary decisions on behalf of everyone without parliamentary oversight.
I'd love to know what's happened with that court challenge that Dear SA initiated, because it was supposed to be heard this week in the High Court. So hopefully there's been some movement there from Hurtis and the those guys and the DSA guys. So,
well, I just want to bring this thing back to a bit of a light-hearted kind of place. So,
sorry, I just have to say one thing before we go to the light side. This is just one last dark thing. So you mentioned the Great Reset. Sorry, I have to slip this in.
No, please go.
The Great Reset and the new normal. So our dear stepdad, and this is one of the first things that opened my eyes. And one of his initial addresses, he spoke about building a new economy. If you remember that, it was one of his lines, and that sort of thing ties in with the whole, financial reset in that. So the government wants businesses to fail. They want poverty. They want strife because they want us to become reliant on them. But
this ties in. Sorry. Remember when they said like we went from 2 million flipping grants to 20 million or something like that, and they thought that's something to brag about. Like, no, you douchebags. That means less opportunity, more people relying on you. That's how they want it. And they're openly like advertising it. Like, how great are we? It's like, it's not fucking sustainable, guys. Go on, sorry.
They love it. They love it. They want to have people come with their begging bowls and, plead. But the greater picture here is, like you said, the globalist movement. So the World Health Organization used to be just a health organization, but it's become a political tool, and together with the IMF. So now if you get an IMF bailout, that usually it came with strict conditions, like everyone says, okay, austerity, restraint, you have to spend it wisely and that, but that's no more. The World Health Organization, the conditions for the loan is that you listen to what the World Health Organization says. So they worked in tandem. So that's when the health protocols and the when health becomes a political tool, because it's not about the money, it's about the control.
Yeah. No, and I listened to a video today about Bill Gates, and he's like, yeah, you know what? It might not be one dose, and you might need 2 to 4 doses. I'm like, yeah, just follow the fucking money, bitch. Like, and I love it how a fucking software dev is now the authority on vaccines in the world. I'm like, go fuck yourself. You're not a doctor. I'm like, it irritates me. And yes, like, fair enough. There's a lot of medical professionals that weren't right about the way they said this, but I'm also like, Bill Gates, you're funding all of this at the back end. I'm not going. It's not like you're being objective here, guy. Like, let's be very honest. So as Mr. Punisher rightly says, it's all about the money. So I also had a few of fun spats on Twitter this week. So this is the picture of health, isn't it? Our new Gauteng MEC, and I just tuned like, yeses. Did she eat the previous one? And then I also said she looks more like the Minister of Fast Foods and Sugar-Laced Beverages. And then I made a second tweet and I said, Gauteng's new health MEC, taken minutes after she ate the previous health MEC, should be Minister of Snacking and Diabetes. Now, always when you say these things, there's going to be like one. There's always one. And sorry, this is my one. That goes like this. So body shaming is your best way of changing ANC bitterness and corrupt tendencies, right? And then Rainier caught him out on his own timeline, fat shaming someone else. He was fat, but was showing signs of the leader. Unlike fatty Colin Oros Manye, he's a puppet and never addresses issues relating that. And then I just tuned him, double fat sham with some Oros, please. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I'm like, I love how the lefties always come out like this. It's like, you're body shaming. And I'm like, dude, like, and I just told him, like, I assure you, no one in my what did he say? And then he told me, like, yeah, your family's probably cannibals and you eat people. I'm like, oh, Jesus. The left's humor is always, like, terrible. And then after that, Rainier's like, in Wuhan, this means dinner is ready. The Batman sign. And I just like, Rainier, are you bat shaming China? So a bit of a play on words, but like,
Brilliant. I love wordplay like that. It's so
yeah.
fun.
And then Civ is like, is it possible to body shame someone these days? I mean, it's a big. If big truly is beautiful, how could you make someone feel ashamed about it? My theory is the left wants to enforce widespread validation of certain lifestyle choices precisely because they're ashamed of them. And I'm just like, oh, sorry. All right, that's another one. And how I responded to this guy about his thing, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, there we go. I undermine and undermining and defunding the ANC is what I do. Making fun of the useless, morbidly obese health minister is just one of my guilty pleasures. Anything else you want to moan about, Snowflake? Like, these are the kind of people, but luckily he was one. But after Rainier called him out on his tweet where he was calling me out on fat shaming, where he fat shamed, he went silent. Like, it's fucking hilarious. It's that mindset that's really like prevalent out there. They can't have a good argument about anything. Then they look at these finicky things and they like tune you on them. And it's like, guys, come on, you've got nothing. You've got no argument of substance here. So, and then another new legislation, I don't know if you heard about it, is the new cyber security crime bill that's been brought in.
Yes.
Let me get that quick.
While you're getting that, I've got a tidbit here about Rob Hutchinson, the MD of DSA, just tweeted on Twitter that predictions for tonight. Let's hear your predictions. So and then he answered his own tweet, which is quite interesting.
This is Rob Hutchinson, yes?
Yes.
Nice.
So can you see his tweet? I think it's just, it was a little bit earlier, just after 5 o'clock. So state of disaster management act to be lifted tonight and replaced by regulations under the Health Act. Let's hear your predictions. Go. That would be convenient based on the legal challenge, bunch of snakes. So he's got a good point here that if they were to lift it, all the pieces fit because Mkhize joined the defense in our case, which is the SA, and then they pushed for a delay. NDZ did not file her papers. Bad minister. Naughty. They know our case would end it and now need to move away from the Disaster Management Act. So let's hope that is what happens.
No, for sure. Yeah, so I'm not sure what to make of this yet. I read through this earlier, but let me just add this. Add the stream. For WhatsApp and other messages to be signed into law, it's a Cybercrimes Bill with draft legislation to be signed. It was mooted in 2017. Will create offenses and impose penalties which have a bearing on cybercrime to criminalize the distribution of data messages which are harmful. Again, I'm already skeptical because who decides what is harmful? Well, guess who? The state does. Okay, this won't end well.
So if you send a meme of a minister that's satirical and it's deemed harmful, then that's probably illegal.
That's exactly to provide for interim protection orders around these messages and to further regulate jurisdiction in cybercrime. Oh my God, here we go. The bill also imposes.
Is there any piracy stuff in there?
I'm going through it. You'll see. It actually details. Yeah, it details what it touches. So the bill also imposes obligations on electronic communication service providers and financial institutions to assist in the investigation of cybercrime. So yes, they will have access to this information and they can ask for it. So that means they're probably going to spy on us. It will also provide the executive may enter into agreements with foreign states to promote cybersecurity. One of the key sections of the bill deals with the malicious communications and punishments for sending certain types of messages electronically in South Africa. Some of the malicious messages which are covered under the bill are outlined. Data message which incites damage to property or violence. Take that, EFF. Any person who discloses by means of electronic communication service a data message to a person, group of persons, or general public with the intention to incite causing any damage to property belonging to or violence against a person, group, or persons guilty of an offense. That's a bit strange. Violence against a person or a group of persons is guilty of offense. Okay, cool. So if you're trying to cause damage to a property or you want to commit violence against a person or group of persons, you are guilty of an offense.
Is it private property or state property?
They don't specify. Persons in general, a group, right? Let's see here, by electronic communications, data messages to a person, group of persons, or general public. They don't specify, it's just general public and persons. So I take it it's generically any property will probably fall into that bracket. Data messages which threatens persons with damage to property or violence. A person commits an offense if they send a message which threatens a person with damage to property belonging to that person or related person, or violence against that person or related person. So ek kan nie meer vir iemand sê, yo, well, fuck you, fucking person. This extends to messages which threaten a group of people with damage to property or violence. Notably, the section includes a reasonable person test, which states that a message will be considered malicious if a reasonable person would perceive the data message as a threat. There's no reasonable people in government, so we fucked. Disclosure, or in our courts, by the way. They're becoming weaker by the day in the way they... Andile Lugisa, like that's where I'm stopping. I can't. This disclosure of intimate image. God damn it. I can't post revenge porn anymore. Any person, A, who unlawfully and intentionally discloses by means of electronic communication service a data message or intimate image of another person, B, without their consent is guilty of an offense. Fuck, I can't send my nudes, my best nudes to my friends anymore. God damn it. In this case, this person B includes the person can be identified as being displayed in the data message. So no headshots, ladies. Any person who is described as being displayed in the data message, irrespective of the fact that the person cannot be identified as being displayed in the data message, or any person who can be identified from other information as being displayed in the data message. So I think other information will be tattoos, marks on your body, and all those other fun stuff. The bill defines an intimate image as a depiction of a person which is real or simulated. That's a fuck up. And made by any means in which person B is nude or the genital organs or anal region of person B is displayed. Or person B is a female person B is a female person, transgender person, or intersex person. Their breasts are displayed. It's so fucking bizarre. Or the covered genital or anal region of person B, or if person B is female person, transgender person, intersex person, their covered breasts are displayed. It's like, I'm sorry.
It sounds like this happened to someone and then they wrote this legislation.
It really does. It's kind of like fucking all over the place. Yeah. The section also includes a consideration of privacy in the message. We considered offensive person B retains a reasonable expectation of privacy at a time that a message was made in a manner that violates or offends their sexual integrity or dignity. Oh, Jesus, here we go. Or B amounts to sexual exploitation.
And is this just for WhatsApp? WhatsApp message.
For WhatsApp and other messages. So all electronic messaging.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I want to see how this goes, because technically if that guy that did Zuma's the spear, we had his dick on that piece of art. It's an interesting one because it does look exactly like Zuma, but it's a simulated image. It can fall under that simulated image. So memes and art can technically fall under this, which is cuck for everybody involved. So
I mean, even a cartoon, like a satirical cartoon, for instance.
Yes, So
that's problematic because it starts stringing on censorship. So if Germ does a cartoon about Malema or something and it's slightly risque, then he can get and someone sends it on, then they get into trouble for sending that or spreading that message.
No, that's for sure. And I mean, let's then, we're almost out of time, so let's kind of wrap this one up. So fundamentally, to sum it up, the app would have never worked just based on the amount of people in South Africa that had cell phones. like, could no one in the fucking health department have asked that question first, or just deduced that at the very least? But again, I expect too much from our government, to be honest. The answer is fuck no. And where's that goddamn tender? And I want to make a buck, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's eating and feeding at the trough as long as possible, and yeah.
And they actually have run out of other people's money, as Thatcher would have coined it. She coined it like that. So, with the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. Now they are out of money. Now let's before we close this off, let's talk about Pravin Gordhan, that had that shit fit at the Zondo Commission, a few shit fits where he doubled down and got fucking cheeky with Zondo et al. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it, and it sounds hectic. So what exactly happened?
So basically, he just doubled down and he says, like, this is not a court case. You can't question me. He got like Musa cheeky with them. But everyone kind of likes Pravin Gordhan, and Jesus Christ knows why. Because the guy's a complete fucking commie that was on the, like, he's been supporting SAA for the longest time and plowing millions of rands in there. And I mean, Tito is no fucking miracle worker either. He's completely captured by ideology. And why do people expect anyone in ANC in this type, at this part of the fight will stand up against corruption? The only thing keeping the ANC in power is the fucking feeding trough and the Caden network. The moment, and now it's getting interesting because they are running out of money. So my prediction is as follows. The public servants will not get paid. So then things will start happening. Then you'll see the unions coming in and applying pressure. Then they'll keep borrowing money. Then the public servants, SOEs, don't get paid. So that starts the first shitstorm. Then the tenders dry up and the factions start turning internally against each other. And it's internal rivalries like you've never seen in the ANC before because money is drying up. And also, they're also not getting money anymore. And the funniest thing of this all is, remember when they said, no, we want to borrow money, but with no conditions. That's also one of Tito's things. Like, yeah, we want money, but with no conditions. Like, bitch, please, that doesn't happen. If you borrow money fucking from anywhere in this world, there will be conditions. And just because you're the fucking ANC, that won't change. And I think the world's seeing the ANC for what it really is. And I think the world no longer sees the ANC as this success story anymore. I think they're actually seeing them for who they are, with everything that has been happening, the mass corruption and everything. So that's my prediction. Public wages will stop being paid. That will create an uproar. Oh, and then the SASSA grants will stop. And then the tenders will dry up. And then you'll see the ANC collapse in and itself because the patronage network at that stage. Because remember, the SASSA grants and the public sector wage bill is also part of the CADA network. Remember this. It's not just the politicians at the high levels. That's part of their network. When you have those three collapsing, that's when the ANC is done. And we're very close to that. And I can't fucking wait for it. That's my kind of one. And Alan Wynne, stop being a doers and stop trying to do lockdowns and weird shit. DA at this state of the fight, they made lots of good policy choices, doubled down with anti-lockdown sentiment. Or someone like Action SA will do it, and they'll get the votes, guys. And I'm sorry, I'm voting for someone that's anti-lockdown and hard against it. That would be the people I'm voting for. Not that my vote matters. Just one white guy, I mean. Yeah.
One white guy making some white noise.
I should have been the Black Noise podcast. God damn it. Lost opportunity.
So let's talk predictions for Stepdad's speech in a while. So what do you think? Are we going to see a lifting of the lockdown regulations or a softening? Or are they going to double down again and just bulldoze on?
I don't think they'll double down because I think they realized, the dumb fuckers, that they fucked up their entire tax base. With the ban in cigarettes, alcohol, and everything, they realized really badly after the fact, like, oh, Jesus, this is how we get our tax money. Oh, my God, we fucked up so badly. I don't think they will. I think the knife is very close to their necks. I think, like Rob says, they'll find another way to keep the charade going, to change the rules in such a way that they can keep being hard ass, and keep moving the buck, because they love this power. They love this authoritarian vibe. This is NDR 101. This is where they want to be, with their boot as close to our necks as possible. So they'll find a way to keep at this. So it will be interesting. So I think they'll change the rules a bit, but we will still have curfew and all the other bullshit. That's not going away. They'll keep that in place some way or the other. Sneaky bastards.
Yeah.
You, Louis, what do you think?
I think so. I think they'll keep the curfew and minimum restrictions, and then just say, look, but I mean, if for that to happen, they'd still need the Disaster Act in place. So the first prize would be that thing completely gone. So let's hope that happens. It's so hard to say. They're very unpredictable, and so far they've just carried on, irrespective of science and good advice. So
I wonder. I mean, I hope citizens are transacting in cash. I hope people are using Bitcoin and other ways to transact. I hope that everyone is doing what they can not to pay taxes and not to pay VAT, in legal ways, of course, and just being smart about it, because that's the only way. Remember, to defund the ANC, you must get off their utilities. You must get off any institution that you pay them. The moment you do that, you defund them, whether it's with a bit of VAT, whether it's with transactions that you're not paying tax and SARS can't see. This is the only way to take this big monster out. People need to realize that and start being smart about it. The more you start producing your own, growing your own food, generating your own power, using stormwater and not using municipal services. Remember, even your municipal bills is tied to funding the government, because you're funding your local municipality. And we know there's almost no clean audits in our municipalities, my friend. That money goes to that fucking sweet car in their garages. It doesn't go for your service delivery. I swear to Jesus, they have people going out with pickaxes in the evening and moving gate in our roads. This is how bad our potholes are at some places. They actually actively pay people because it's falling apart. And remember, it's first Eskom, then it's our water system that's going. So if you don't have a redundant plan for your water, you're in trouble. Like, even if you have a JoJo tank that catches stormwater or something rudimentary, go for it, because we will see a collapse in our water systems. These systems have not been maintained. Durban area, by the way, losing about 1.5, a reliable source, 1.5 million liters of water a day through the distribution pipelines. That's how badly it's not been maintained. So that's leakage. So just let that sink in. Every day, that's how much water we lose. So yeah, just think how rusty those pipes are. I know most of them are plastic, but there are some metal pipes at the end of that. So get some water filters, fuckers, and strap in for a ride and a half.
Love it. Yeah, and buy cryptocurrency, because it's crypto and Bitcoin. I'll say Bitcoin because I believe in Bitcoin. It's a hedge against the governments, and you also, I mean, if you can transact in that, then you cut out the middleman. So you just transact directly from person to person. So that's how money should be.
Yeah, Louis, and I think, crypto, number one. We'll probably, I'm going to do a series on it, and you're more than welcome to join me. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be wary, be very wary of your government, and don't watch the speech. Just get the lowlights afterwards. It's not worth your time, please. Just don't do it. I'm definitely not going to watch it. Just read the Twitter comments and get the summary. yeah, for sure. Okay. Louis, thank you for joining us. It's good to know that even government's best attempts at bad decisions collapses under its own weight at the end of the day, because they don't plan anything. They just kind of, like you say, they're just following the lead like a bunch of dumb asses. But there is money to spend and there is money to throw around, which is not theirs. And they're happy to do that to make an extra buck. So that much is evident. So, yeah. Good old ANC.
Yep. What can we say? No, Connor, it's been great joining you, and thanks for the chat, and it was awesome. Always a
Cheers, buddy.
pleasure.
You have a good one, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Until the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Cheers.